This is the March 2nd Conservation Commission meeting. This is being recorded, and if you're calling in, you'll be placed on mute. And at some point in the conversation, with the chair's permission, I can unmute you if you'd like to make comments. There's also a questions and chat box if you're logged in on the computer or through the app on your phone. You're welcome to type questions or comments in there, and I will pass those along to the commission.
I'm here.
Hi, Beth.
Hi.
Where are you, Beth? I don't see you.
I'm on my phone, and apparently my phone doesn't allow you all to see me. I'm not sure why that is, but just as well.
No. How's everything with you?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Hanging in there.
Excellent.
I don't see an official time. What do you have on your screen, Mariah? Is
I have 6:31.
6:31? Whoa, okay. So I've got everybody logged in, and I will accept a motion to approve the minutes done by Carrie, I guess, from February 2nd. I make the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded. And any discussion on the minutes? I haven't read them, so I will not vote. No discussion, no corrections, no revisions. Okay, all those in favor of accepting the minutes of February 2nd? Aye. Please say aye.
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 Good. Okay. Very
Aye.
good. Excellent. I just was looking at this. You realize how many B's we have now? We have Blatchley, Berg, Brule, and Basler. Holy cow. That's
Yeah,
something.
crazy.
Then there's a K and an S. Oh,
There's a
well.
lot of M's too.
Yeah. Right. Hey. Oh, well. It takes a kind of a weird teacher like myself
Hey,
to
Rob.
notice these things. So we are moving right along and opening the discussion of Poplar Mountain parking area and trail access. Who's
I'd
making
just like
all the
to add
noise?
too that we have Todd and Lisa Katz who
Okay.
have logged in. And Todd and Lisa, I'm gonna unmute you. You can stay muted until you have something to say if you'd like, but then you can mute and unmute at your leisure.
Thank you very much, Mariah.
You're welcome.
Can I'm hearing an awful lot of sloshing and scraping and stuff, so whoever's moving around, watch out, just because it's very distracting. Okay, we will open the discussion. I missed the meeting last month, but I also was able to follow what the various residents had to say. So I'm not sure that we need to reiterate every single argument, but maybe the discussion has progressed to a point where we can come to some kind of synthesis of all of the points. Mariah, can you tell us a little bit about where we stand?
I can. I tried to put together this table, which is definitely not exhaustive of all of the pros and cons, but I tried to put together everything as best as I could remember, and you all are welcome to add to it throughout this meeting. Basically, to get everyone up to speed, before I even started, when the town bought the Poplar Mountain Conservation Area, it was known that there was going to need to be parking, and throughout the process, there was discussion of a few different locations. Right now, there is a clearing on the south side of Route 2 that is not conservation land. It is actually owned by the Board of Selectmen, and part of it is the highway layout because Old State Road is still owned by MassDOT. That is currently where most people pull over, just onto the shoulder of the road or slightly off of it. There's enough space for cars to pull over. That is degrading the edge because there is no curb, and MassDOT does not want us to encourage people to park just on the side of the highway. And so throughout I mean, I've been here for about a year and a half, and I remember like my very first Conservation Commission meeting, I think there was some discussion about the parking areas. And there was a proposal of putting the parking, of more formalizing the parking on the south side of Old State Road. On this map, it's number 1, the south side. These are approximate locations. And putting down gravel or paving, making a real curb cut there and kind of formalizing that parking area. And one of the concerns that I know Brian and Glenn and MassDOT had was putting in or having to have pedestrians cross after they park. You know, you'd have to cross the road to get to the trailheads. And we'd have to get MassDOT's permission to put in a crosswalk, and you can only put in a crosswalk if it is a safe location for pedestrians to cross, because crosswalks don't make an area safe. They alert a pedestrian that it is a safe place to cross. So then after that discussion happened, we tried to look at a second location, which is on the north side of Old State Road, adjacent to the current trailhead, the westernmost trailhead here. That would require some grading, some removal of trees. The current trailhead here is over a drainage swale, and I think maybe a catch basin. And so that will likely need to be fixed no matter where the parking area is, especially if we're having people park right next to it and use that as the main trailhead access. That will need to be, you know, probably some clearing of some brush, a more formal trailhead map area, and having it be not over a drainage area so that people can access it without tripping. The third location that we looked at was Eversource has a gravel lot where their towers sit, and it's a little bit farther down. The Katz property is about right here, I think. And there is a trailhead somewhere right along here that actually sits on the edge of their property, which they've asked us if we could move off of their property, which the town is very willing to do. We just need to find a location for it to come out at. This Eversource area is already gravel, it's already graded, and it has a driveway with currently a gate across it that doesn't allow traffic to go up there, since I understand that there's teenagers going up there and partying by the power lines, and residents asked us to have a gate put in, which Eversource did. So we actually went to Eversource and asked, would it be possible to just turn this into a parking area? Basically, it would require us to put boulders along the edge so that no cars are going over the edge there. Probably add a little bit more gravel and do a little bit of brush clearing just to make the area a little bit wider and cleaner. And then changing the main trailhead from the edge of the Katz property in Old State Road to up where the parking area would be, which would require some clearing of some brush and perhaps removal of some small trees. And then we would put a trailhead map there. The issues that have come up around this location is at the sight line, which the driveway comes down right about here, and this curve is, people come around this curve really fast and you can't really see to the left when you're coming out of the driveway. So some concern was expressed that I totally understand about people coming in and out of this driveway and whether that is dangerous. MassDOT did say when I reached out to them unofficially that they would be fine putting some signage up and clearing vegetation to allow for some better sight. Yeah, so that's kind of all of this. Number 3 would be the cheapest option, and that could probably happen this year. These other 2 options would be a bit more expensive, since there would be some grading and gravel that would need to go down, potentially a crosswalk that would need to go in, and it would take longer to do those projects.
I'd like to
I
add
think-
a fourth one.
Say that again?
I'd like to add a fourth. If you put the map back up, Yeah, there is a, Rob, you pointed it out to me, I think. There's an app over sort of where you have drawn the furthest east leg of that number 2. There's a break in the grade, furthest, no, I'm sorry, the furthest west. Yeah, right there. There's a break in the grade. At one point, somebody had an access up in there, and it leads up to a flat area right away. And so, just as a last proposal would be along the side, similar to the number 3, but it would be further down, and it wouldn't have anything to do with the existing culvert or catch basin. And I was up in there today, and besides some small trees being taken out, there may be one or two larger one at the most. And of course, it would bring you out at a perfectly straight section of road, so that
Do you know in terms of where our property line is, if it's still on the conservation property?
Let me double check that. Let me look at the.
Rob, you're muted.
Oh, yes, it's definitely on that. Where did you guys go? Oh, there you are.
Rob, did you have something to say? You were muted when you were talking.
You're still muted.
Yes.
Still muted.
Okay, so it comes out on the straight area of the road, and is it already cleared, or is it just flat?
The upper section is flat. And
Does it have trees on it?
wouldn't, very little in the way of trees. There's
Okay.
to make a parking area for, I don't know, a half dozen or more cars, you only have to take out maybe one large tree, other than right by the entry.
Okay.
But there is as I said, there's a cut in the bank where they had something going up in there. I marked it with surveyor's tape today.
Okay.
Did you mark that today?
Yes.
Okay, because we really don't know our boundaries on that side, and we're not sure exactly where our land ends along that road. Because there was never a pin placed. It just says pin to be placed, replaced.
It's very close to the trail where if you were to walk up the trail from the existing trail entryway there, the trail starts to head to the heads to the west, and then curves and goes straight up. And if you walk up through into it, you're looking smack at that curve of the trail.
Okay, so I've been on that trail twice. It's a really steep trail on the west end. It's rough, it's a rough trail. And just for future's sake, I would prefer to see the lot at the end of our property there, because then you have no tie-ins with Eversource, and it would be a more permanent thing. And we're plenty in agreement to give some of our land up to make sure that works.
I can't hear too well because of the echo.
Oh, maybe it's just up in New Hampshire too. I might have.
Lisa, if you're in front of the computer and on your phone, I don't know if that's how you're doing it, but you might have to walk away from the computer or turn off the sound on the computer.
It's not the computer, it's the phone. We try to turn up the volume. Oops, wait a second. I think I did the wrong thing now. Wait. Here, Now the volume's all the way up. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, but I think, are you using both your phone and the computer?
No, we're in a car and we
Oh, okay. That might be, it might just be picking up the audio. But I
Yeah.
think what you were saying was that you were supportive of having the parking on the Eversource lot?
not supportive of that.
Say I'm turning my phone down.
Trying to turn my phone down to see if it comes back. No, we'd rather see it at the end of our property towards Barry's house in Miller's Falls, the west side.
Okay.
That's not going to help, Todd. Now I can't hear them.
If you turn off the sound audio and you only use your phone, that's what you want to do. Like the car audio, that's off.
The caller audio, I'm not sure what that is.
The car, if you're in a car, you want to turn off the car audio and only use your phone.
None of that's going on here. We're in an element and there's nothing else on. I apologize for the lack of good sound.
Are
But
you holding
That's
the
okay.
phone to your ear is the thing?
no, but I'll hold it closer to my face. Does that help?
It's fine. There's just a bit of an echo, but if you mute for now, we'll keep discussing. You can just unmute as you have things to say.
Well, my main thing to say is that I'd prefer the second option versus the third option, simply because the second option has a better gift to the future. You're always going to be dealing with the high tensions. I've lived near high tensions before, and it can become pretty problematic.
Say we're going to give up our land.
We're even willing to give up some of our land to make that happen, if necessary, to make a better trail so it's not so steep. And so it just seemed really egregious to me. It seemed really rough to go up that west side. It's just a really rough trail. And we just want to try to do what we can to be, I don't know, to be, at least some kind of helpful or stewardship type thing in the future, I guess. We're willing to donate land, though, if necessary. We just don't like that other gate because of where it is on the corner, and people tend to park in front of our house.
Right. I think no matter where the parking is, the town will move that gate just because it's on your property, and so it should be moved.
That's awesome. I don't mind it being an egress for emergency purpose. I mean, we do have a cart road that's on our property that does go up to the Weeping Wall, from the best of my knowledge, and that's a perfectly good egress too. But I just don't like the high tensions thing, because in the past the high tensions have really been a problem in my life, and I know because they really won't like the liability in the end, and it could be more trouble than you know. I have one friend who has a farm with the high tensions that go directly through it, and it's been nothing but trouble. Because
Yeah,
of their
we've gotten permission from Eversource, but obviously the Conservation Commission needs to determine whether that's the route that they want to go. But in terms of the actual, power company agreeing to it, they have.
agreed to that.
Yes.
It seems to me that that's actually closer to our house and our neighbor on the other side of the high tensions house, Laura and Rob's house. It seems that parking lot would be much closer to our property, our house, and their house. And if it's in the middle of that straightaway, it's sort of the same distance to Lisa's house and our house, and it's much more open and more appropriate.
Plus there's a turnaround.
And there's a turnaround there where there's already on the south side of that road. So it's just a little bit less, I don't know. It just seems to me that in the future, it would be a really great thing to consider putting a parking lot on the land there.
It's flat.
There's plenty of flat land that we know we own, but we don't know where it ends or where the boundary lines are. But we went out there and we're willing to give up something just to make sure that happens, if necessary.
All right, I'm just going to mute you again so that there's no feedback.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your input and generosity.
We want to see the future of the forest be wonderful.
And we've seen problems with money.
So I just want to step in with a question. The person who was just speaking, I don't have his name.
So that was
and
Lisa Katz, Todd and Lisa Katz.
Todd
They're the
and Lisa-
owners of what was previously the Guinness property.
Right, okay, so we have met. I just wasn't sure because I can't see on the screen any name. And
We also
then,
have someone here by the name of Bill Morris. And Bill, I don't know if you're in a butter, but David, if you're interested, I can unmute them as well. And if they have something to say.
yeah, I just wanted to be sure. Can you show me on the map what site we're talking about here? I got 1, 2, and 3 and an X. So where is the land that they were interested in? Right there?
So
The X?
this is the westernmost trailhead. I believe
Yep.
the Casses were saying that they liked something over here, whether it is where I marked or where Mark and Rob were just talking about,
Okay.
which is a little bit even farther. I think you said it was a little bit farther west of here.
Yeah, okay, right. So we're talking about section 2 anyway. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Bill, I'm going to unmute you if you have anything you'd like to add.
No, I'm just listening. I appreciate the opportunity to hear what you have to say. I am not in a butter. I live on Ridge Road. I do a lot of hiking in that area and very familiar with all the hiking trails in the area that you're talking about. I have offered myself as a volunteer to the Conservation Commission to do some repair work and other work in that area for the town of Irving. I'm also a former planning board chairman for the town of Irving.
Great. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah. And Rob, I know Rob is there somewhere, but I wasn't sure whether his mic was muted or not. I didn't hear him say anything. So, but I know he's been really active, he and Rob and Laura, in the discussion. So anything coming in from Rob and Laura?
His microphone doesn't work, but Rob, if you want to type in the chat box, you can use that. Or call in on your phone. Looks like you might be doing that. Yeah. Yeah. And just, I guess, while we're waiting, this was something that I had sent to Eversource with marking out if we did it at the Eversource lot, just the lot would be here. It would be about 100 by 75. The current gate, which is right here, would get moved up to there. And then we would pave the driveway apron, and then the trailhead would be about here.
Laura, how many cars would that hold?
Glenn figured it out. I forget exactly. It might have been like a dozen, maybe. I don't remember off the top of my head.
Could you get that number, please, for me? Sometime.
Yes.
The only other question I had, what is the speed limit on Old State Road? Do we know? I live on it. I don't know what it is. You know,
35?
I don't think there's any signs anywhere.
Just the neighbor down the road that has it on the stick.
What is everyone, all the interested parties, which is all of you, what do you see as an outcome for tonight? I mean, do you want to discuss, make a decision, or do you want to carry this into further thought and discussion, or what would you want to see happen? Is there even another option, Mariah, that we could consider? Are all these possible, or is this kind of going to complicate things?
I'd like to see us make a decision, and I'd love to really hear from Rob and Mark about what they want.
Okay.
Because they've been on the site so much.
Yeah,
it sounds like Rob's mic is working now.
Yeah, I'm on the phone. Can you hear me now or not?
We're good.
Excellent. All right, great. So, Mariah, can you bring up the map again just one more time?
Yes.
So just to clarify, that number 2 is where Mark and I were discussing. There, that is the spot that has the pull-up, and there originally the north one was going to be to the right of that X. That was where Paul from the highway department put flagging originally. And so that would be like number 3, I guess, would be immediately to the right of the farthest left X.
Okay, so I think maybe that's where the confusion was, because maybe Paul marked something out originally and then Glenn last summer went out, and maybe it was this spot where I have. So
Okay.
I don't know exactly, but I think maybe we're talking about the same place where it kind of flattens out.
Yeah, so the one to the right where it to the right of the trailhead is the flat part. To the left of the trailhead where your number 2 is, it starts to go up like this, and there's a road cut that goes to the flat that Mark was talking about.
Okay.
And that is directly across from where the blue trail, if you were to go in there, you would go straight up. Is that right, Mark, what you saw today?
That's right. And you could connect to the right, if I'm correct, aren't I right? You can go to the right there and connect to other trails out of that entrance or shortly thereafter.
Right.
I also
Yep.
would point out that if you go to the east side, the right side of the X, the east side of the X, that land looks low and damp. And I think even if you cleared it out, it would be several years worth of putting gravel in there if I know what, a dirt foundation for a parking area can absorb. You just put gravel in and gravel in and gravel in, and every year but on the area number 2, if it's assuming it's the same area as I was looking at, is above that is better drained, and I would assume that would be a more solid surface. Somebody has to go in there from the town and say, well, to go in here and clear this, put something down for drainage across where the road is, or would take this amount of work or that amount of work, and the soils would be this or that, and if that was the choice, I would think we could have volunteers clear the land, get the trees down and because it's not much. It's not a significant bunch of trees in there. So I like that idea. The only other idea I like better, or like as well, is number 1, which has all of the highway department, the Mass Department concerns and how many years that would take. Either one of these options, 1 or 2, would take time. Whereas I know the Eversource site is almost immediate, but I'm afraid of that curve, and I don't think the sight lines are good in either direction. If you were to come down that drive to leave, either to the west or to the east, and I would recommend people go over there and check these sites out if we don't have a decision right away. And I would like to see somebody from the town highway department take a look at where I put the flags today, site number 2, look at it a little more thoroughly, so that they could say, well, no, it won't work at all because of this, that, or the other, or
I believe if we're talking about the same location, I think that's where Glenn flagged last year. Brian, can you answer that? Do you know if the spot was the place that Glenn flagged last year to the left of the trailhead or to the right?
If my memory is correct, it was to the right.
Okay, so maybe we could have him go look at this spot to the left when he gets back from vacation.
Yeah, I could talk to him about that.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no flag or the remains of flags up there.
For my 2 cents, I think aesthetically, looking at it from that point of view, it'd be a lot better to not have to park under high tensions. It's just kind of ugly. And I would agree with Todd and Lisa in that regard. Not only is it unsightly, and they spray stuff under there to keep the vegetation down. It'd be good if you're going out for a walk in a natural setting. It'd be much better to have like the number 2 worked out, as opposed to the really roughed up site under the high tensions. And the other thing that I would mention, I wasn't sure what Mark Blatchley was referring to, but if I understood correctly, as a conservation commissioner, I wouldn't be interested in piling in fill and gravel onto a wet spot. You know what I'm saying? We're not into filling wet zones. We're more like to safeguarding them. So if there didn't need to be tons of firming up done, that is obviously to the left of the X would be a lot better, if I'm understanding correctly.
Well, I'm not making a big thing. My comment is that there's a couple of dirt parking areas that I'm familiar with. One out there in Zor that, every year they get muddy, and you go in, you throw gravel in there, and everything's fine. And then the next year you throw gravel in when it gets muddy. But I do believe the area to the right of the X is almost at the level of the road. And that's where and there's water in the ditch next to the road on both sides of the X and along there. So my sense is that soil is probably wetter. It also looked like there was more to be cleared, but I think somebody has to look at number 2 and in case there are some things that are problematic. And if that won't work, I say we go with the highway department and go challenge the state and push through on that one as much of a problem as it is, because I'm just seriously worried about somebody coming out of that corner on that curve and getting clobbered.
True. Yeah.
So I just want to be clear. I don't know that the highway department or that the MassDOT was unwilling to consider having the parking in the space marked number 1 on here. I just know that Brian had concerns about having pedestrians cross the road. So I think that was prior to even finding parking lot number 3, the proposed lot. So they may not push back. I just know that they have strict requirements around where they allow crosswalks across state highways. And so it may take some permitting work, but that's not impossible. And we can definitely talk to them about that if that was an option. But it sounds like right now, number 2 is the way that folks are leaning. And Glenn from the highway department, I'm sure when he finds time after he gets back from vacation, would be willing to go out there and take a look at it. And if commissioners wanted to go out there with him, and make a meeting of it, then I'm sure a site visit, he'd be happy to talk to you all out there.
Sounds
Brian,
good.
do you know what the speed limit is on Old State Road? The speed limit?
My understanding is it's 35.
It's not posted anywhere though, really.
It's sparsely posted, but it is posted, I think, in 2 or 3 locations.
Is it? Okay.
I'm going to have to disagree with that, Brian, respectfully. There's 0 mile per hour posting on the road.
Really?
Yeah, just having lived here. Yeah, there's no posting.
I'm certainly not challenging you on that. I know that some residents have put signs in the front faster than.
Yeah, where Helen and Russell used to live, I forget their names now. They had the police department put up that flashing thing that says what your speed is and tells you you're going too fast. And I believe it said that it was 40 miles an hour there. I don't know, but there's nothing posted anywhere, and everybody drives, not everybody, but people that, a lot of people drive around 50, 60. That's kind of the general thing because it's that straightaway double line highway feel. Used to be Route 2 kind of a thing.
Right. We'll reach out to the
So-
traffic engineer for Route 2 and ask them to take a look at the posting requirements and get that posted again.
Oh, thanks, Brian.
Yeah, of course.
That's great.
So would the
That's really good.
commissioners in general support saying that our primary focus is site number 2, and if that doesn't work out, then our secondary focus would be site number 1?
I am.
I support that, yeah.
Yep, sounds fine.
Because that way we can like keep it moving along. You know, if 2 doesn't
Yeah.
work out, we don't have to meet again to know that number 1's our choice for after that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Good idea.
I know going back a couple of years that when I was out there with Brian, he very early on expressed the concern about the crosswalk and the crossing there. So it may be harder than it seems right now, but if we can land number 2, if number 2 fits all the qualifications, then that'd be great. And it
Right.
sounds like Rob is fine with that, as is Brian. The Katz family also. So I think that's the desired outcome at this stage.
Go ahead.
I'll just echo that and say, yeah, that would definitely be, to me, the smartest, wisest, and easiest choice for us to do in terms of nobody, we don't really have to ask anybody. We don't have to deal with the highway department. We don't have to deal with, anybody. We can just go do it.
Yep.
And the pictures that I sent you all most recently is from that area, and there's one kind of shows, the scrubby trees that are there. It's all, that was clearly used to be an access point for Farmer Guinness, and so there's not a lot going on there. So that's the grade up, and that's kind of where it is, more or less. The second one that Mariah is showing. Mariah, thank you. This is awesome.
It's not a curve, though. It's straight.
Yeah, it's not a curve. No, that's just my panorama view. and that's straight on. That's you can see that little beech tree that grew up right in the cut up.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you go to the next one, that's the panorama. There's really not much there in terms of there's nothing old, basically.
Yeah. Okay.
And we're positive that we've seen a boundary marker that puts that squarely on our property?
Brian, that's
okay.
Yeah, I can speak to that, Brian. The westernmost property line is the stone wall next to Himmy and Hervey's house, and I forget their names that own Himmy and Hervey's house. So it's basically like lawn, stone wall, and as soon as the woods start, that's all conservation land. And so we've got maybe 1/8 of a mile before we hit this spot.
Okay.
Yeah, that's obvious. Yes, that's very clear.
And one thing I know, Rob, that you had put in one of your emails that I just wanted to let you know was we do have the conservation restriction under Mount Grace.
Oh, great! Because last time I asked Mount Grace, they didn't think they had that, but that's great. And I can stick around for the Friends of Urban Conservation discussion if you guys are doing that tonight.
Yeah, we hope to.
But thank you, Mariah. And if Todd and Lisa are still on, I just wanted to tell you guys where your boundary line is. There's a sign that Chief Blair put up that said like surveillance, like like you're being surveilled, don't dump here, kind of a thing, to the west of their property, and that's pretty much the boundary line there.
Okay.
This is Todd Katz speaking. The homeowner 143. There's a couple of things. First of all, we're wondering if the committee would entertain a proposal that we are preparing.
About parking?
Yeah, it actually really works with what Mark and Mike from the committee have been talking about, and our neighbor Rob. And we spent a lot of time on that land over the last year since we bought it. I have a sense of, you know, how it responds to different conditions throughout the year. We've been doing a lot of clearing, as you all know.
Right by the house.
And we were just there on a really wet day. And I believe that one of these areas that the committee really seems to be going in the direction it is really well drained. Probably doesn't need a lot of remediation. It's close to grade of Old State Road. I think it really meets everyone's concern. And I'm just wondering if the committee would allow us to submit a proposal about it that's a little more detailed than I'm able to give you right now. Also, I know the meeting's gotten kind of long.
What are you proposing?
Well, it's very much like, I look at back the map, the X. So now it's all just a question of hundreds of feet one direction or the other. And I think the members of the committee, people who have used the area over the years, have a good sense that Lisa and I are beginning to have of area of the forest that will not be damaged. It's not going to affect the way, I believe the word is, well, now it's escaping me, but kind of hydrodynamics of the way the watershed works. I don't think it's going to take a ton of gravel year after year. That was a really good point that Mark made.
But that's the low point.
Yeah, but there is a higher point.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering if the committee is considering revisiting this, and if so, would just consider some sort of more formal proposal that we could submit to Mariah and Brian.
Where are you talking about?
On the map, it's close to the X. It's just a little bit
Towards our house more.
yeah, towards our house. It's a little bit east of the south side parking area that is actually used quite a bit, but usually not in great numbers. You'll see one car there frequently. When it's a bunch of cars, they usually park where everyone agrees, bad sight lines, et cetera, et cetera. So it's near the X. It's on the north side of the road between our house and the
You're
X.
talking about that road that used to go in that then becomes one of the trails?
No, that's the cart road.
Yeah, a little to the west of that.
West of that, it gets higher and drier.
It's high, it's dry, and it you know, it's not too high in elevation off the grade of the existing Old State Road. It's a kind of perfect spot. And the other reason Lisa and I really like it, just because one of the reasons we bought the property is because it's nestled within the town forest. It really is one of the main reasons that, you know, although people told us, you know, don't do it, it's a mess, it'll take forever. You can imagine the things we were told. We love that it's in the forest, and we've seen over our lifetimes, because we grew up just off Route 63 at Mount Toby, and we've seen how, as population has grown in the area, there's a lot of use that was never thoroughly anticipated, clearly. And I'm thinking of the future. I'm thinking about what I see at Leverett Pond, for example. I actually saw someone beeping their horn, giving someone a finger over parking at Leverett Pond when we were on our way from my dad's house up to our house. And I noticed again the same kind of problem when we were going to Turner's, going to Abishon, and there was a problem with the parking in front of the Montague Plains entrance to that reservation. So it's really, I'm trying to think, and I know Lisa and I, we talk about it a lot. What are going to be the needs of this recreation area as the population in the area increases? We even saw a very brief mention of the town forest in Irving on Channel 22 News. So I think that it's not beyond the pale to anticipate greater and greater usage of the town forest in the next decade and certainly beyond. But the forest is going to hopefully remain forever. And that's why I'd really like to see not only a parking that's not expensive to implement, but one that actually can be expanded if needed in the future without a lot of remediation. And also a trail on the west side that it's just a little bit less of a challenging trail. As you know, it's marked as a more challenging trail than the East Trail, and it is. I've walked your trail system. It's beautiful. I love it. I love where we live because of what we've already done. And that's why we have some really passionate feelings about this particular thing. Because, yeah, there could be an immediate solution, but how is it gonna affect the children when they're, adults? How's it gonna affect our godchild who may have our house when we're long gone? And these are some of our concerns, and we're actually really hopeful about it. We're not concerned in a, I don't know, like want to fire hose everything, but we're really psyched. We want to be stewards of the forest. We don't think it's appropriate for us to be members of the committee, because then we can't participate like we are right now. But we're just hoping that the conversation could continue for just a little while. We're still in winter. I don't think anything needs to be done before we're in full on spring. So that's kind of my plea to you. Let's continue the conversation, because Rob, Mark on the I believe he's the chair of the committee, or certainly on the committee, and Mike, you'll have to forgive me, we're new to your community. So Mike on the committee with the glasses and the hat, not the other Mike with the
David,
glasses.
we have names wrong right now. David is the chair with the glasses and the hat.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah, I'm David. So yeah. What can I say here? I'm busy taking notes also.
I think they actually got disconnected. They're no longer showing up on the list.
Yeah.
I think they should submit. You should reach out to them one way or another and get them to submit their idea for us at the next.
Yeah.
With a some kind of a sketch of where it is, and then we should go ahead and have the section number 2 looked at, so we can come to some kind of a conclusion at the next meeting.
Is it like I proposed? Do you think you could have the next meeting on site? And look at these spots. It's hard when you're looking at a Google Earth satellite image to know where exactly they are. So you could have I don't think you need to post a site visit unless you're deliberating, but I think it would make sense to be able to deliberate at a site meeting when you're able to walk around, and then you could invite the Katzes. They could show you the location they're thinking of. You could look at all of these spots and then make a decision then.
Yeah. Do you want to do that for the April meeting, or do you want to do a special meeting?
I think it should be a special meeting, because it would want to be during the day.
Yeah.
So you can see where you're at.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. We couldn't do it at night.
But I also would suggest that people could look at the site number 2, because now it's flagged, and then when they get theirs, if you could just email that out, if they submit a specific enough location or market, then people could check it out. Then you could have a meeting there.
So is it your impression that what Todd Katz is proposing is a different site, or an bigger number 2, or a site closer to their house? I mean, it was eloquent, but I didn't know what the content was going to be about.
My sense was it was a similar kind of site, closer to his house and more on grade with the road. And it was a similar site.
Okay. All right. Well, so kind of at a point where we have to decide a couple of things. One is a continuation of the discussion, which of course would be premature to do anything else other than that. But then we would want to either pick a time in our usual monthly meeting and have it in the daylight hour, or just have a special site visit meeting between now and the April meeting? So that's kind of, the way I see it, that's kind of the question right now. We definitely want to look closer at the site number 2. Most of us are familiar with number 1. In that interim between now and whenever, Glenn will be able to check this out, or is he going to have his hands full for a while, or what? Do you know, Mariah?
He's on vacation, I know, at the end of this week and part of next week.
Yeah.
But if you don't have a meeting for a couple of weeks, he should have time, I think, unless there's like a bunch of snowstorms, he should have time to at least take a look at it and mark something up. So, yeah.
I'm, for my own, this is just me, I would much prefer to have the monthly meeting on site as opposed to trying to squeeze in another meeting to get all the ducks in a row before then. But that's just me. It's just, I've got a busy schedule, that's all. And I always block off the time for the Concom, but everything else, life gets in the way too. So that's my druthers, would be whenever the first Tuesday of April is, to have a site visit meeting during the daylight hours. But it's all up to you. It's March 2nd. I mean, the month will go by fast. Glenn will be away for another week and a half. He will have to get caught up on some things. He will then have to get in there and, check that out in the meantime. So I don't know. That's just me. You all can decide what you feel comfortable with.
Sunset on Tuesday, April 6th is at 7:22 p.m.
So April 6th, we could meet, it depends on who's working. I mean, some of us have the leisure of being retired people, but anytime on April 6th would work for me. I just have to know. If you wanted to consider April 6th, whatever.
Would it impact any of the other business that we're going to have to deal with in the way of other?
No idea.
I mean,
we don't have any permits submitted right now. So unless someone submits something in the next week and a half to be on your April agenda, you won't have an RDA or an NOI to consider.
Right. So, well, if there's any other, first of all, I'll put it out on the table. I make the motion that we meet April 6th at a time to be agreed on during the daylight hours. And if there is a second, we can have a second and then a discussion. And if there's, thank you. So we could have a discussion and it can be voted down. Like if somebody wants to do it sooner, that's fine with me. But any further thoughts? The motion is out there on the table that we go for April 6th, assuming that Glenn will have had a chance in the intervening 4 weeks to do what he has to do to keep us informed about or inform us about what's out there. And in the meantime, the cats will also have an opportunity to write up their proposal. And so that's what my take is. I don't know, Mike, the Mike Schaefer with no glasses and hat. What do you think?
I agree with you. I think that would give us time to find out what the cats have in mind, and we can look at what Mark and Rob flagged, and Glenn can look at it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and Carrie, you feel any particular, what's your opinion?
I'm gonna go down and kind of scope it out myself.
Yeah.
To get a better feel for it, probably within the next couple of days even. Just kind of like visually looking at it like this, it seems to me like number 2 would be the best in my eyes as well.
Yeah.
Really hard to say without seeing it in person.
Sure. Are you okay with the April 6th date?
April 6th, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, I just need to know what time.
Sure. Okay. And Mark, you okay with that? Mark Blatchley?
Yep, definitely, especially
Okay.
want to have the, get the Cat's idea.
Yeah, right.
Too.
Right. Katz and Glenn and a couple of us will go check it out on our own also. I see Brian Smith in the corner there. Do you have any comments, Brian? No?
Just to say thank you all for working on this.
Yeah.
I'd like to put comment out, and that is there seemed to be some concern about the steepness of the trail leading from the west end there, but correct me if I'm not right. Can't you also go east from that? Can't you come in and go east instead of going up? Or is there not a connector yet?
I'm not certain what you mean, Mark. Can you say it again? This is Rob.
If you go to the west entrance, when you go in there, is there a way to not go up the steep direction before heading east from that entrance? I mean, if you go,
yeah, yeah, I got your question. Thanks. I understand it now. Yeah, if you were to do number 2, you would be at the intersection of the westernmost yellow and the blue. And most people do the blue, which is not much incline. The westernmost yellow is a pretty steep haul going straight up, going up.
Right, I'm familiar.
Okay, great. Yeah. So for example, like the meetup groups, they seem to be coming almost every weekend, which is awesome. And I don't really know where they're from, but they may be AMC related or something. But usually on Saturday or Sunday late mornings, there's about 5 or 6 cars out there. And I've talked to them a couple times out there, and they are always going up the blue trail, going past the Weeping Wall, past the little waterfall, and then taking the yellow back around, looping down. So they're avoiding the steep part basically. So yeah, it's super easy to avoid the steep part if you want to avoid that.
Okay.
Beth,
yeah, great
does
question.
the April 6th date work for you? I know you don't have a camera on here, so.
I can be there anytime 5:30 or later, or with so many good heads on it already, if you want to do it earlier in the day, then you should just do that, because I don't have to be there.
Yep.
And I won't be able to attend, but I don't need to be there, and I trust everyone can have that conversation.
5:30 is okay with me, if that works for Beth.
Sun goes down at 7:30, Beth?
7:22.
7:22. Well, so Mike is suggesting that we go make it after work for Beth. I don't know if that's is that what you would call a requirement, Beth? Would you prefer to be present?
Oh, no. Feel free to meet without me. I'm totally fine with you guys sorting it out and letting me know what happened.
Yeah.
We'd really like to have you there.
Okay, I can't wait then.
All right. We won't make you bring the hot dogs and marshmallows, but we'll expect to see you there. Okay? All right. So it looks like people are okay with 5:30. If we do have some other business, might have to slip it in to the agenda, but otherwise the fundamental agenda would be just a site visit and conversation, and maybe finalizing the decision on what we want to do. But of course, we'll have the CATS proposal in the meantime, so that it might yet be carried forward. We'll have to see how that shapes up. Okay, so at least we have the date and the time. And nothing will prevent some of us from getting there ahead of time and poking around too. And then we'll just wait for Beth. Okay, everyone okay with this?
You got.
Okay, so there was a motion and a lot of discussion, and I will vote aye for supporting the motion of April 6th at 5:30. Mike Schaefer, do you vote aye?
Aye.
and Carrie
Aye.
and
Aye.
Mark Lashley. Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you. Just
Aye.
a little formality there. All right, good. Can we move on?
David, before you move on, I can be there too, and
Oh, yeah, Rob,
and I'm happy
okay.
to walk anybody through if you want to meet up
Sure.
beforehand.
Okay, that'd be great. Matter of fact, I haven't been there in about a year and a half, so I might like that. So, all right, I'll be in touch with Rob then, at the very least, and others. Okay, good. Any further comment before we move on? None. Okay. I haven't seen the minutes. I don't know what went on. The updates on the orders of condition, there been any closure? Is there still work to be done or discussed? Mariah, what's your take on that? On Wheelock Street and Arch Street?
I believe that Ward sent over, I can pull them up. Ward sent over the final form. Let's see. I believe it was, oh, special conditions, hold on. So these are the special conditions that go with the Wheelock Street.
Okay. Now, most of you, other than myself, have been following this really closely because I didn't even make the initial site visit. So I know Mike and Mark have been close to this. Do you have any further concerns?
The main concern we had last time, I think, is SC number 4. The wetland replication area shall be constructed as early in the construction process as site conditions allow. That was I think that was missing in the original one, the replication area. Is there more detail on that, Mariah, where that's going to happen? Or...
So I know at the site visit, we talked about doing it on the south side of Wheelock Street. Originally, it was proposed to do it Riverfront Park because DEP wasn't a fan. I don't remember exactly why. Oh, it was because it was the side of the road. DEP didn't want the replication site on the side of the road, even though the actual culvert site is on the side of the road. But between Ward and the engineer and DEP, they figured out that they could do it on the southern side of Wheelock Street, adjacent to the culvert site. And the engineer, I believe, got Ward what he needed to be able to write this condition. So that's why that was added in there.
Okay, so it's going to be at Wheelock Street and not at the Riverfront Park.
Correct.
Okay.
I guess I don't, where is it that it puts in the details of what they're going to do? I'm missing that.
I believe, I mean, this is telling that once we have our final grades, that we will verify those grades. I don't know.
It doesn't sound like it's very well defined.
Well, I don't remember. I think that the engineer might have sent it to Ward and all of you, the actual update. I don't know. You'd have to go back and look through the emails, I think. Let's see.
What Mark Stinson had suggested last time, and we didn't do it, was that you could have put it into the condition that prior to construction would approve the replication area, but that's not here either. So
I'm looking through the emails, 1 second. Yeah, so on Friday, February 5th, I sent out the plans with the updated replication areas.
Is that referenced in here? I just don't see where it's referenced.
I don't know how it usually is referenced.
Is Ward, he hasn't attended any of our meetings, David. Is that something he would do normally, being our consultant?
Well, if we could specifically request that, yeah. We didn't,
because
as far as I know.
I need his input now. I don't see what we're looking for here. So I'm not comfortable signing off on this without seeing the replication. Plan.
David, do you know where it usually is included? Where, like, how that usually works? Or Beth, if someone submits updated plans, where that does that get put somewhere on the forms?
My sense is that would it have to be in somewhere as an attachment, or sometimes these come in as a booklet with an appendix. So I don't know. It should be the specifics should be attached somewhere. And Mike's
No,
point.
I guess I mean, like, I have the plans. I guess, where is it referenced on the permit that you all are signing that there was an updated plan submitted?
Oh, that I don't know. Oh.
Mariah, were you looking at the, you said February 5th email?
Yep. Yeah, I can resend it if you'd like. I'll resend it right now.
I'm looking at it.
Oh.
I hope I'm looking at it.
I just don't know, like, Mike, I think what you're asking is, where does it reference that this permit is not for the original plans, but for the updated plans, right?
No, I'd like to see what the replication plans are that you just mentioned that they're gonna do to the south side of the road.
Oh, you want to see them?
Yeah.
Okay.
And, well, I mean, that's what I was.
I sent them out on February 5th, so you all should have had a chance to look them over.
Yeah, that. Yeah, I can see it's getting a little confused here. I guess I'm going to have to download it and open it.
Okay, yeah, I hadn't looked at this before, so that's my fault, I guess. So this should be referenced in. This is what you're referencing in the plan. It looks pretty detailed there, right? It's got the wetland replication area, 600 square feet. No, that's fine. That's what I was trying to see. I didn't know where that was. I'm sorry, Mariah. I didn't read.
That's okay.
So is there still a question that's hanging there, which is where does it get referenced, and how does it get attached? Is that what you're saying, Mariah?
I think the question that I had is, does it need to reference new plans on the permit? But I think, I would think that the plans, I think our engineer sent the updated plans to DEP and to you all, and so this would be referencing the updated plans that they have on file. So I think you're all set. But I guess if you signed it and Mark Stinson came back and said, no, you need to add something, then we would just sign it later. As the applicant, putting my applicant hat on, I need to get this signed sooner rather than later. It's been several months and I need to close out my grant. So I would suggest that you all pass this through if that's what you're going to do. And then if Mark Stinson has any issues, he can come back and we can resolve them later.
Anyway, you could just call up Ward and say, hey, how are we going to be able to be sure that this is referenced somewhere, or that do we need to reference it? Or because I can picture Mark Stinson saying, you crazy people, why didn't you do this first? And we'll be back into, and he'll say something else rather than that. But I don't know if it's worth just double checking with Ward. He's the expert. We certainly aren't.
I would ask
sounds
someone
like,
from the commission to make that call because, yeah, someone from the commission should call Ward and ask him that. And maybe you can vote. I don't know, Brian, are they able to vote to approve or with any amendments that Ward would make so that they don't have to wait until the next meeting if there is a change that Ward suggests? You're muted.
I was saying, if the committee was inclined to, I believe the committee can make a conditional vote for review by their consultant. With that being said, I do understand, Mariah, you need to watch your role because you're the applicant. We have to watch what you're doing in this. It's weird when the town's the applicant and the regulatory agency in the same breath. So I respect what you're all trying to do. I am not as familiar with these forms, so I do wonder where Ward's expertise and guidance would come in on making sure that these are complete in a manner that Mark Stinson and DEP will accept before you vote. So I would just, as an aside, would like to better understand the consultant's role in helping you all have a full document to review. So I think I want to have a further conversation on that to better understand that for you all. So going back to the question, could you do a conditional vote with your consultant potentially making an edit for this referencing? I think you could if you were inclined to do so.
I got a question. Why can't we just take that document from that email and submit it at the same time as this form?
So my understanding is that our engineer has likely already submitted that to DEP. I wasn't sure whether it needs to reference that on here. I'm imagining that Ward knows what he's doing, and if he needed to reference that on here, he would have. But I just don't want to have to come back and have another decision be made at the next meeting because I'd like to be able to close out my grant. So I guess what I'm suggesting is that you make a vote that you, I guess, what is the wording? You would approve the order of conditions either as is or with any recommendations that Ward provides before you sign it.
I think
the
final part of your phrase needs to specifically reference that those other amendments, that email. So in the statement that we would approve this order of conditions, I forget what you were how you were saying it. I don't quite figure out how.
Oh yeah, and I'll let you guys come up with the wording. That's just what I'm proposing as a.
But I'm saying the tail end of it just needs to say reference, that we're referring to that other document.
And we'd refer to the plan set date for permitting dated 2/5/2021.
Right. Thank you, Beth.
Sorry, I was distracted. I'm just looking through my notes to see if I've got handy, but I don't find it, and so. Anyway.
So does someone want to make that motion?
So moved. Somebody better say it.
So rephrase the motion.
We give conditional approval based upon Ward Smith edits and referencing the plans sent out on February 5th, I guess.
Is that good enough?
So the motion is to vote a conditional approval of the orders of condition dependent on Ward's edits of February 5th.
Referencing February 5th.
The permitting plan set dated February 5th.
Okay, conditional approval dependent on, because I have a scattered motion here. I'm still not hearing a full motion. So Beth, take it. What did you hear? What did you say?
I just added at the end, you know, as shown on permitting plan set dated February 5th, 2021.
Okay, and not include Ward Smith at all, as shown on plans submitted February 5th. Okay, so this is what I think the motion is. We will vote conditional approval of the orders of condition dependent on as shown on plans submitted February 5th to include, or as shown on plans.
As shown on the permitting plan set dated 2/5/2021.
Permitting plans.
Permitting plan set dated 2/5/2021.
Yeah. Okay, we'll try that. So we have a motion and a second. Someone want to second that motion?
Second.
And any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye, David Brule.
Aye, Beth Basler.
I'm Mark
Carrie
Blackburn.
Okay, thank you all, unanimous. Thank you. Okay, I think to your satisfaction, Mariah, now what would be the next step? We have to come by and sign it? In the lobby?
Yes, I can do that tomorrow. I'll be in town hall tomorrow, so I will put that out tomorrow, and hopefully, you know, over the next several days, if you all can come in and sign that in the foyer, and then early next week, now I know how to submit them online, so that's very exciting, and I can do that.
All right, good. Yeah, excellent. And I'll be there on Thursday, so I'll do that on Thursday. Was there any other progress or closure on the Arch Street project?
That was closed last week.
Okay.
And the
so
order
that-
of conditions was signed and filed.
Okay, great, thank you. So I'm assuming that Carrie's minutes reflected that it was the public hearing was closed.
Yes.
Yeah, all right, thank you. Phew, okay, we're doing well. Coming up to the updates on the Friends of Poplar Mountain. So this is Mark's project, who's taking the lead anyway. Mark, what do you got to say? What do we know?
At the moment, we've got a wish list of things and tasks. We've got, I don't know, maybe 8 people. The question is, there is a question as to whether we should or could solicit for our volunteers list, people outside Irving. Yeah, not as a, so it's sounding more like we don't have a Friends of Poplar Mountain organization, but what we have is sort of an adjunct set of concerns from the Conservation Commission and a list of people who do work or want to do work on the land, you know, maintaining trails and so on. All of the people who originally worked on a project continue to be interested in it. There's also desire from a few folks to see, just openings put out for expanding pieces of land, maybe reaching out to adjacent landowners that of some of the places like the other top of the peak of the mountain. I'm not sure who owns what around the mountain, but just to say, anybody would like to have either conservation easements or, have this become part of a conservation land. Not at the moment is there an interest in raising a lot of money or going to a lot of effort to do so, but just putting it out there. My understanding from the Western Massachusetts Climbers Coalition is that they have an extensive list of volunteers that they're not going to be activating for any kind of volunteer work until sometime past when the I don't know how to express it, but when our current COVID crisis is over, or abated somewhat. They are expressing annually interest in, I believe it's called the Rock property, an abandoned farm off of Old State Road that is adjacent to Rattlesnake Mountain. And I'm not quite sure what their interest in it is. The top part of it looks to me to be a reasonable connection for piece for protection, rather. It's got wetlands on it and would provide access further west. They wanted to know if we would like to sign on with that we support their efforts to either acquire or to get rights onto it. I'm not entirely sure what they were doing. It was like sending an annual letter to a distant owner who has no interest in the property anymore. And I thought we could consider that, not saying we're interested in, we're interested in their doing something with it, or they're getting some control over it. And other than that, there was a wish list of tools and such. I think we can sponsor spring trail work, in a very limited fashion, as long as we specify that it has to follow protocols with, and it be small groups, like 3 or 4 people. In fact, most folks who work on trail work, don't see gathering 20 people to do anything there, but more in line, say, trying to expand those who work on the property to get a few more hands on a given time, so you can get 3 or 4 people under the direction of one of us or one of the folks who currently work on the trails. And there's also there's more interest. I think Rob was mostly pushing the concern of invasives, and I see that as a really important thing to be doing, both cutting back and removing invasives along the trails, and along the highway, and along the power lines. Although I have a little concern that if we're going to pull invasives, we need to also perhaps be, I don't know, putting down something else to grow there. But that's, I'll keep putting out thoughts, and maybe Rob, you can put more in there. I see you back again. Yeah, so that's about all I've got, I think. Is there anything I'm missing?
Well, I just want to jump in to get some clarifying questions in. Rob, of course, can chip in. I'd like to hear, are you considering any kind of an organized friends of Poplar Mountain? It sounds like we're just talking about a loose collection of volunteers who may or may not show up and do stuff. So when I hear friends, I assume an organization. And you saw what the Friends of the Irving Library put out, and they went the whole 9 yards with creating themselves as a nonprofit and doing fundraising and things like that. So I just was wondering, from an organizational standpoint, whether you wanted to envision, this is for the whole commission, whether you wanted to envision something like that or just put out a call. And of course, then Brian is here, then would be, what's the town's liability for having people come in? You mentioned Irving residents, yeah, who knows if they would be covered by Irving Township, but outsiders as well. So there's a lot of questions that I would have about pulling in people and in what way to organize them, whether there would be some kind of semi-formal, what would I call it? Semi-formal outfit or organization.
I did not get interest in an independent organization.
Okay.
From the people that I polled, either the ones that contacted me through the after that note in the newsletter, and the individuals that I reached out to originally. I mean, it just sounded like a little bit different from what the current interest is.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, people want to get together to help maintain the site and trails to help people
for the time being.
Well, yeah. Okay. All right. Good. That was my clarifying question. You answered it.
The other statement would be to put together, for us as a commission, to assemble a list of people so that, an email could be sent out and say, are there individuals who would be available to join us in, we need 5 people, we need 3 people, we need 6 people, whatever.
Okay.
On such and such a weekend.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah. So it's basically a volunteer crew and for a specific punctual tasks.
And in years past, we've done volunteer work days on those trails. So we have experience with having assumed that liability.
Yep.
It would fall on the town's liability, and any volunteers, whether they're Irving residents or from outside of the community, would be covered.
Okay, good.
I do have a volunteer release form that each volunteer should be asked to sign. And we should just be thoughtful about any training that needs to be done with tools or any safeguards that need to be in place, safety equipment, things of that nature. But yes, we can do that.
Okay.
I just, can I ask the question, is the town got, I mean, if we had 4 people who have not done stuff there before, who don't have their own stuff, would we have gloves, hard hats, goggles if somebody was, working some equipment?
I would say typically yes, but in a year of a pandemic, we probably don't want to share things like that. They're going to touch people's faces. But what I would say is the commission does have an expense budget, and those items aren't very expensive, so we could acquire those tools. And I think we would just treat them as single use, and volunteers who need to use those would take them with them when they left. I don't think it's essential that we get. Yeah.
I vote that rather than being called Friends of Poplar Mountain, since it won't be a formal friends group, we're called Poplar Pals.
Yeah. I love it.
Sounds good. Pop Pals for short. Yeah. A word, just because Mark Stinson always somehow works his way into the conversation. When when we were dealing with rehabbing the Riverfront Park, there is, you've got to believe it, there is a form and protocol for removing invasives. So it's another form that would have to be filed. And so can't just go up there and pull it out. I suppose we probably could as a guerrilla act, but on the other hand, just to be sure. Rob, is there, I mean, Rob and Mark, are there considerable invasives up there, or is it just starting? Or Japanese knotweed doesn't seem like that's their habitat, but
no, it's considerably starting, I guess is
Yeah.
the way to say it.
yeah,
Meaning like it's enough to, you know, I started it last spring. The bulk of the stuff that needs to be pulled out is buckthorn.
Yeah.
And that is along the power line. And
Yes.
then at the very base, just before the cliff goes up on the power line, there's a good chunk of bittersweet.
Yeah.
And then on the other side, on the town land, not the conservation land, it is a nonstop nightmare of mainly bittersweet, some triflora rose, some, you know, but some autumn olive. But yeah, bittersweet is probably the worst over there. And it just basically, it's like the road is keeping it kind of at bay. And then also the forest is, you know, it's not going to go deep into the forest, but it's hitting the edges. So all along, basically like where we're saying the parking lot would potentially go, that number 2, you know, that's a classic spot. I've just been, I guess, guerrilla pulling out the bittersweet there when I go by, you know. And so I think, you know, Mark and I had a discussion like, oh, it would be awesome if I had some help doing that, you know, like that would be really great. I have no idea like what it would take in order to do the town side, if that's a possibility, not the conservation side, you know, but like that stuff is so bad that I don't know, probably have to be tractor in there or something like that. I'm not certain, but there's a good chunk also along that number 3. Correct me if I'm wrong. I can't remember the south side, the potential, whichever one that was. There's a lot there. I cut down a couple big, really autumn olives that are pretty bad there. They're just going to grow back up because they're not pulled out. But Mark, to address your thing, it's not like the big hole is left when that stuff. It's not like this stuff is enormous. If it's enormous, we can't really do anything with it, you know. But that's kind of the invasive update, I would say.
Yeah, great. Sounds like.
Hey, David,
like,
regarding that paperwork that Mr. Stinson wanted us to do, that would only be applicable in jurisdictional habitat, right? So.
Yeah, good point. I would think so.
It wouldn't necessarily need to be done on this property.
Yeah, right. Well, if we can eliminate paperwork, that's always good. I'm looking at my own time. I'm going to have to slip away, but I don't know. None of you were on the Conservation Commission in the old days. I think this is even before Laura, but if you will believe it, the Franklin County District distributed to all the Concoms in the county free autumn olive seedlings. So we used to hand them out at the town hall parking lot a couple years running. And so we contributed to the autumn olive invasive wave of invasives, but that was, you know, it was a free giveaway. They gave away dogwood and autumn olive and some small seedling pines, some kind of a pine. So probably, you know, you can thank the Concom for the spread. And anyway, just a little anecdote. I'm going to have to begin boogieing away unless somebody has, Carrie can take over the notes for me, unless you all want to draw to a close as it is now. So it's up to you, but I will have to sign out.
Is there any more on the agenda?
No. There was Friends of the Irving Library Project, you know that they were interested in doing some planting. And so I just said, everybody, for us, I said we probably would be interested. I don't have any new news. And Morningstar sent me a mail saying that she has not heard anything yet from the Irving Elementary, but I suggested she get in touch with Rinky Black just because she's the person who is the power behind the scenes there. So those were the only updates that, beyond what was on the agenda.
Your mention of Rinky brought one other thing related to Poplar Mountain. Just real quick, I'll just say it because it's nothing we can do anything right now. And she mentioned the question of the overlook and other spots where could benches be put, which is a common thing in a lot of conservation areas along a trail. There might be some kind of a rustic bench placed. And we should think about that, going forward as the weather warms up and as we're getting into work on other things, but just getting it out there. It's in one of the emails that she sent, as I remember it. I think you got it, Mike, didn't you?
I think that might have been Bill Morris asking about picnic tables in a view from the top of the mountain, an overlook. Rinky was asking about plowing the curbside because there's no place to park right now. And Maya responded to her saying there's no curb cut, but I really think it would help if we could plow it there. I don't know. It's dangerous. People are halfway in the road when they drive by. So
Just to back up to Mark's comment, we don't own the land up at the top, right? It's owned by somebody else.
Correct.
So we wouldn't be able to do that.
We own half of the land, Beth.
I'm sorry?
According to my understanding, we own half the land up top. So the western half of the brow over. So we own up to the brow all along. But the western half is Irving Conservation Land now, donated by the gentleman that is old, and then donated to Mount Grace, and then Mount Grace donated to us. And then there's another section to the east of there that I think abuts Mike's land, and that's Poverty Mountain, and they seem unresponsive to any outreaches to them.
I also reached out to them last year, and they responded once just saying, "What is this?" And then I answered and then never heard from them again.
they own more land than just that. They own another big chunk over on the other side of the power line too, over by Rattlesnake. So they're a big landowner up there. It'd be good to get them involved. I mean, if we want to connect the two.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to, on that note, I'm going to leave anyway. So thank you all for putting in all this time.
I'll make a motion to adjourn. Make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, I was just going to disappear, but we'll make a motion to adjourn then. I will make that motion, and I can hear someone seconding it, probably this guy over here. Yes, okay, it is seconded. All those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, very good. All right, excellent. Thanks everybody for sticking in there, and thanks Rob for all the work you've been doing all of these years. And excellent. We'll just keep it moving forward. All right. Bye everybody.
Thanks everybody.
Bye.
Bye.